it's very challenging to live with whatever we carry.
Centerstone is a one-of-a-kind place.
And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. There's nothing holding me back anymore.
We've had so many great insights, so much great feedback from all of you that are gathering this information, because it's so important to know it before you need to know it. And I want to make sure that we can inform everybody. And Karsen Finney is going to join us now on Zoom. This is the first time we've tried this new Zoom. Let's try it out here. Karsen, how are we today?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. And Karsen, you're a coordinator at the Crisis Stabilization Unit, correct?
Yeah.
And take me through your time at Centerstone. How long have you been there?
So I've been here about 5 years off and on. It's been about 2 years, and I've been in this position for a year.
And take me and detail me that 2 year or this last year being in this position. What have you been able to kind of gather, and your thoughts on the CSU living the experience?
Yeah, so we've been able to reopen, which has been really, really great. We made some updates to the building and to our programming as well. And we've been able to take folks for, up to 10 days and really help them get the support that they need after any kind of mental health crisis.
And when you say any mental health crisis, do you guys really take individuals no matter what's going on, what the situation, if they need that help? This is a great spot for them to kind of recharge those batteries and refresh a little bit?
Yeah, typically. So there are some folks who need a higher level of care, so they need to go to the hospital and get things sorted out first, but then they can come here after that. But generally, as long as you don't need a hospital and you need some extra support, we are here. And crisis looks so different for everybody. Like, you and I probably would have very different definitions of, what would be a major event in our lives. And so it can be, straight mental health stuff. It can be loss of housing, relationship issues, anything that's a kind of a major stressor. We're here to kind of help support people through that.
And while someone's in the CSU or in the unit, what are they going to be able to learn? What are some of the tools that they'll be able to maybe take with them down the road?
Yeah, so we do a lot of groups. We have 6 a day. There's more downtime than you would think. I know it sounds like a lot, but we focus on coping skills and realistic coping skills. I know a lot of times in mental health, people think like, oh, it's just a guided meditation. I'm never going to do that. And neither do I. But we're here to focus on things that you will actually do when you need it. So even just distractions, anything you could do. We do a lot of safety planning. And so, if we do get to a point where what usually works isn't working anymore, who can you call? Like, what can we do to kind of get you what you need at that point? We have a psychiatrist that does telepsychiatry with clients. That's a major barrier, especially in this area. People don't usually get into the psychiatrist quickly. And so people can see our psychiatrist while they're here, get their meds figured out if they want to. We are totally voluntary, so everything is optional. But yes, we really just focus on getting the supports and needed like coping skills in place, and then you can go back to life and take it with you.
Well, and that's so important. Just going back to something that you just had said about that psychiatrist that you're able to talk with, and so many times I've had folks on talking about mental health in pediatrics to all the way down to the gauntlet of ages, and it seems like that's always a concern. Is it just takes sometimes a little bit too long for that individual if they're having a little bit of a crisis or a little bit of a situation occur that they can't talk to anybody. So to have that here at the CSU is really a big incentive for so many people that just need that conversation, need those couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, just being out of meds is a crisis on its own for some people. And not everybody has access to, a primary doctor who can refill in the meantime, or even somebody to call. And so we're here to try to fill all those gaps.
And take me through some of the folks that come through the doors of the Crisis Stabilization Unit. I just imagine that you guys serve all ages, that there's not really a one demographic situation when it comes to CSU. Is that the case?
Yeah, we have quite the mix of people that come through. We are only 18 and over.
Okay.
You do have to be an adult. You have to be your own guardian, but otherwise there aren't really any other criteria with that. We've had folks who, are having, any kind of postpartum, even to, people who have not been able to refill their meds, who have more serious chronic mental health stuff. And then everybody in between. We've had kids from SIU who are just really, struggling with the stress, being away from home. So it's really a wide mix. And a lot of times our clients here can make connections with each other and learn from each other as well.
Well, and honestly, to me, that's what I think is such a great incentive, and why I love this idea of the CSU is because, and Karsen, you know so much more about this than I do, but just from my personal experience, and some of the things that I've gone through is, there's always that moment where you personally feel like, hey, I need a couple of days. I just need to figure this out. I'm going 1,000 miles an hour. I can't even know which way's up, what's down. But to have this option to where you can really pull back a little bit here and get refocused enough to where we can still tackle the days today of our life, I think this is just such an important program to have for so many people.
Yeah, we do too. I think that, mental health does focus on, well, they try to focus on everybody's needs, but when it comes down to it, we really look at, the highest area of need, those folks that need hospitalization, and kind of the lowest area need people who can get their needs met just in outpatient, once a week. And so we're here. There are a lot of folks who end up in the ER or in some kind of crisis and don't go to the hospital, and then they just go home. It was bad enough they thought they needed to go to the ER, and then they get sent home and they're like follow up in a week. And so we're kind of here to meet them where they're at more than we have traditionally before.
And Karsen, if you don't mind me asking as well, we've been having conversations about Centerstone's amazing substance abuse treatment programs with recoverwithus.org. Over at CSU, do you guys experience a lot any individuals that come in, maybe they're kind of dealing with the substance issue and maybe they can't go to rehab, or they can't go to a 90-day, I don't like to say that word, but a 90-day treatment facility. Do you have some of those individuals, or is this a different category of groups that we're tackling and helping?
Sometimes, and it's so interesting the way those two issues are separated because there's so much overlap.
Yeah.
People don't, develop substance use issues without some kind of reason for that, some kind of mental health stuff, some trauma, a hard life. And so we do. We aren't able to take folks when they are, going through withdrawals or actively using, but we actually had a gentleman a couple weeks ago who was here who did have a bed ready for him at a 30-day program, but not for a week and a half. And, for those folks who use substances, that's a long time.
That's a long,
to stay
long
clean.
time.
Yeah, and still be ready to go. When you're ready to go, it needs to happen as quickly as possible. And so he was able to come here, and we focused on his mental health, and he left from here and went straight there. And so we are also able to be a bridge for that. And I want to say too, our recovery specialists all have some level of personal experience with either mental health or substance use recovery or something like that. And so we do that very intentionally to try to create an environment where we're not super like stuffy white coat kind of situation. So we're here, and we've been through it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of our staff are able to really connect with our clients that way and be a living example of like what the right care at the right time can do.
100%. And just, hearing that to where you were able to bridge that gap of, hey, we know that you got to go, you're going to go to a treatment program, but for the next, week and a half, we got you. I mean, you hit it right on the head. That week and a half, if, we couldn't maybe get into the CSU or have that opportunity to have that space, who knows what that week could have looked like? Because when you're in the middle of it, a day could feel like, 4 months. It's just, this is so important, Karsen. And whenever you have a room full of diverse individuals as you're doing your groups, is it important to have those, different demographics, if you will, to have a more of a constructive conversation? Because kind of like what you were saying, and you guys do such an amazing job of connecting. If you only have, one idea or maybe one demo, you're missing out on so much growth.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of our clients see that, and some of our staff see that too.
Yeah.
It's really, really common that we see ourselves and some of the folks that come through, because people are just people, no matter what they've got going on. And so I think a lot of our clients do kind of see other perspectives in their peers that are here. Sometimes we see folks really, really kind of taking on a mentoring role with another client, or something like that. And sometimes people come in thinking that, this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened. Everything is terrible. And then they come in and hear somebody else's story and they're like, man, I'm doing all right. Okay. Like that
Yeah.
perspective can really be helpful. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I really love this idea of it, because, I'm one of those, I used to be, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. But when you have those conversations in groups and you really get to see how some of the other experiences that other individuals have powered through, it is uplifting and it keeps you motivated to go, hey, if they can do that, I can handle what I'm handling too. Is that what you've witnessed just in those group sessions?
Yeah, it really flips to more of a growth mindset.
Yeah.
We focus so much on problem solving that, like, yes, we absolutely want to hear everybody's got a story, and it matters. What has happened matters. And then we kind of shift to moving forward. So, like, in the future, how do we avoid that? Or, how can we help you get back to where you want to be? Like, what does that look like? And really kind of focusing on future oriented, like person centered kind of conversations.
And how many individuals can you guys take inside the Crisis Stabilization Unit at one time?
We have 8 beds, so it does make for a good like group size, but it's not a lot of people. We try really hard to not be a really overwhelming environment. We don't feel like a hospital. Everybody has their own room. And like I said earlier, there is some downtime, so we can, do puzzles, or people can bring their own kinds of things that they like to do. Like we've had folks come in and crochet in their downtime and things like that.
How important is it too for an individual that's coming in, and like I said, I'm kind of learning with the audience here on the reactions and just some of the nuances to this. If someone comes in and they're overwhelmed, they're in the middle of a a manic or an episode or something's happening, a crisis. Is there a wind down period for them as they get welcomed in? I know it's only a short stay, so there's only so much time that you can work with, but I didn't know how that welcome kind of went for those patients, for those individuals that maybe are very overwhelmed and maybe just need a dark room for about, an hour and then let's go do this.
No, absolutely. And I think that would be me for sure.
Same
I need to
here,
go to bed on it
100%.
and not deal with it. We do. People come in and we do have some admission stuff we need to do. Obviously, there's paperwork and computer stuff, but that can be, kind of flex throughout the day. We can make sure they get in, have a shower, have a nap, and then get a snack, and then we can do it. That first day is really crucial in people's impressions of this place and what to expect. And so we try hard to kind of ease people in. So you don't have to attend, if you get in at 1:30 and groups at 2, we're going to skip it and we'll hang out.
Don't rush.
we definitely have time for that.
One thing I was looking into before I had you on the show today, just going on to Centerstone.org and looking up the Crisis Stabilization Unit, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that 24-hour wraparound care. You hit on it a little bit earlier, but I think this is so important because I was looking and it says a nurse who can answer questions, provide you with care and support, and all these other services. Can you detail those again? Because I have a few more questions about them. I think this is so beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nitty-gritty of it, we do have a nurse. She's here 40 hours a week, so she's on site when she's here. She is excellent and has tons of great experience. We have recovery specialists 24 hours a day. And we do have an on-call nurse and an on-call psychiatrist, so we can always answer those questions. They just may not be in the building. Our recovery specialists, like I said, have a really great mix of education and personal experience. They're here 24 hours. And they do groups with clients. They can do individuals with clients. We're here to answer the phone for folks that have left. Sometimes they call at all hours just to kind of talk. I'm here. I mostly do admission pieces and things like that. And we set up with outpatient mental health or substance use counseling. When people leave here, we make sure that they have a follow-up appointment in place with a counselor, the psychiatrist, things like that. Our nurse really likes to help get people set up with primary care providers, things like that. And so we try to connect to what resources they need. Again, obviously in this area, there's kind of a lack of resources in some things. So, with things like housing and transportation, we do what we can. We don't have like secret resources or anything. So we just have to operate with what's available. But We do what we can. So we really focus on group and individual work, though, and we have nursing and psychiatry as well.
And, just from your experience, Karsen, I'd like to hear more about the folks once they leave. Are there some pretty good success stories with CSU from your experience?
Yeah, we do. We do. And we have had several people who have come through and then continue to see outpatient counselors in this building.
That's wonderful.
And so we sometimes get to run into them like in the front. And it's really, really satisfying for me. And I hope satisfying for them. I guess I should ask next time to see them and kind of check in and hear how things are going. We every once in a while have folks who know that they can come back if they need to. So we've had a few folks who have been back a couple of times, and that's good to see, because the more they're here, when they get in, they're able to tell you kind of, obviously something happened, but like what went wrong, like in the planning, and like what could we do better this time? But we have had some good success stories. I wish I had had one ready for you. Like
no,
a real
it's
example, but
Karsen, the reason I asked that, not to cut you off, is I get this picture because just how you've really detailed just a brilliant picture of what CSU is. And I just have this idea, where you have individuals of all ages in these groups, and they're talking through them, and just some of those intergenerational, kind of thoughts coming out, and developing maybe critical thinking skills in your younger patients from your older ones, and all of them feeding off of each other. It's such a great, almost village atmosphere where you're all lifting to be the tide. And that's why I think this is just such a win, especially because I know so many people that really, could have utilized the CSU maybe a few years ago. They were going through immense, crisis, and they didn't know where to go. And to know this now, I mean, this is just amazing. And take me through what you get the most joy out of in your position. Is it seeing the folks coming in knowing, hey, you're making a big jump? Or is it, the group sessions? Or is it after the times come to say goodbye, seeing that turnaround? What does it for you, Karsen?
So something that we do here, we do a safety plan right when they get in. It's usually me. So I'll ask, kind of what we should look out for, what works. And we have that conversation. And then we do it again before they leave. And we try to incorporate these new skills and things that we've talked about. And I think that for me really is the most satisfying, because you can see just the change in the way that folks speak to you, the way that they're talking about, these plans, their level of confidence when they're ready to go home is so, it's just powerful. It really is. They can, they are, the master of their own destinies here, and they have done all this work, and it shows, and they know it. And that's really satisfying for me to see.
Does it motivate you at all? Yeah, when you see that too? Because if I was in your position, because listen, we all have things that we're battling and going through each and every day, but to see that and see those folks coming in and starting over and or maybe turn it in 7 to 10 days, turning it around, I'd get fired up and go, see if they can do it, you can do it too. Does it give you some motivation? Just curious.
Yeah, it does. And something unique too that happens is the more that you teach coping skills and setting boundaries and things like this, the better you're able to do it yourself.
Yep.
You always get a different perspective in teaching than you do when you learn. And so it does help kind of implement some things. It's really neat. I am not an organized person at all, and I've been able to kind of make some systems for myself that have helped tremendously.
And see, neither am I. That's why I'm so thankful that everything's done by, technology here that I don't have to touch. But, Karsen, my other questions for you, because we're wrapping up on our time here. I always tell everyone 15 minutes, but this was too interesting to not talk about a little bit longer. And I wanted just to know a little bit more about the process. So if someone reaches out, let's say, God forbid, that they're in a crisis currently, or maybe they know that their brother, sister, their loved one, partners going through a crisis, maybe this could be a spot. What's the first step? Is it just giving a phone call and seeing what's open, what's available?
Yeah, so there are several ways. We try to keep as many doors open as possible, because not everybody is familiar with mental health and getting that care.
Right.
So we do have a unit number. You can call us directly if it's serious. If you feel like you are in any kind of danger of being a harm to yourself or someone else, go to the ER or call 911. And then Centerstone has like mobile crisis teams that will go out and meet with you there. They can also come to the house. Centerstone has a crisis hotline. Or you can, if you're a community partner or provider, you can fill out a referral form. It's on our website and send that over via email, fax, give us a call. Really, any way you can get a hold of us, we'll do the job.
And how long's the turnaround time for that? You know, to get a response, maybe get some feedback. Is there a couple of day waiting period just for that way the folks that maybe are gathering this information just in case they need to utilize it, so they know a little bit more of the process there?
Yeah, sometimes we do, because of staffing, we are only able to admit folks usually during business hours, Monday to Friday. So if we get a referral in that time, if we can swing it right then, we will. And we're working on expanding those hours as we kind of move forward with reopening. But typically the next day, and we'll call when we get the referral, we'll call back within an hour or so. So you'll be in communication with us, even if you're not here, and we can try to help kind of, safety plan until you're here, or help you figure out transportation to get here, or whatever the case is. I tell people when I call the first time, call us back every 10 minutes if you need to, like, we'll get you here. We'll just got to figure that out. And then once they're in, there's usually about a 24-hour turnaround time for psychiatry as well. That's something people ask a lot.
Wow.
If you are admitted Monday to Thursday, you are able to see our psychiatrist typically the next morning.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm not being. I mean, that's a very quick turnaround in terms of that type of help. And Karsen, I don't know if you can give me the full answer, but what are your thoughts on going forward with CSU? Do you see this program expanding to maybe different locations throughout your coverage area to offer this to individuals maybe a little bit more closer? Or what are your thoughts just going forward for CSU? Because this is such a great program. I can't see this going away.
Yeah, I would hope to see it expand for sure. I think that next steps, we don't have anything in stone, but if we continue to, get referrals and help people and get the kind of feedback we've gotten, I'd like to open more of a unit that's focused on folks who are unhoused specifically, because that's its own kind of crisis, and we definitely need more of that in this area. So something a little bit more flexible that still provides that care, but isn't solely based on mental health, probably. But yes, I could see us expanding. I'm not sure if that will be anytime soon, but
Right.
Hopefully someday for sure.
I hope so too. And then one last time, I wanted to ask. Sorry, we have folks waving outside of the studio. I wanted to ask you, where is the facility located, in case anybody needed some information and wanted just to have a mental note of where they or their loved one could possibly go?
Yeah, we are in Carterville. If you're familiar at all with Carterville, there's kind of the one stoplight. We're right behind McDonald's, so we're pretty easy to find if you're looking.
Really cool. And Karsen, thank you so much for your time today. I know that you're busy, but to have your insights and learn more about the Crisis Stabilization Unit, it's really just a great program. And thank you so much for all the work that you do for Centerstone, and we're so glad to have you guys as partners.
Thank you so much.
Before I do take a quick break, I do have to take care of a little bit of business for Centerstone, and that's just to tell folks that the reason we do these is because Centerstone is a really great national partner when it comes to mental health and substance use disorder treatment for people of all ages. We started these partnerships to keep us informed. Need to know that information before you need to know it, and get a couple of steps ahead. And if you're looking for a fresh start on the road to recovery, a life free from addiction is possible, and it starts at Centerstone. Centerstone is, of course, that national leader in mental health and substance use disorder treatment for people of all ages. With a commitment to delivering care that truly changes people's lives, Centerstone's dedicated clinicians, as Karsen knows, I love how you guys do this. You base all the recovery care plans on the latest science. So that means, folks at home, the recovery care plan developed for you is based on the latest science. It's not something that might have been passed down a couple of generations. It's tailored to you. There's so many unknowns on the road to recovery, but one thing you can know for sure is that Karsen and folks at Centerstone will be a constant force for you on your recovery journey. Addiction can happen to anyone, but so can recovery. So start working towards your recovery today by visiting recoverwithus.org. That's recoverwithus.org, or by calling 1-877-HOPE-123. Karsen, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again.
9:45, we'll take a quick break. Our daily show rolls around the corner, and we wrap up the 9 after this.